Like we don't realize, but it's the little tiny changes that can make such a profound impact on our life, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, but we kind of have to create that foundation first. So we've been talking about like the physical, the physiological impact that
Mm-hmm.
clutter has as well. And it's also a way to create new mental space and clarity.
Welcome to Sensitive Stories. This episode is for educational purposes only and is not intended as a substitute for treatment with a mental health or medical professional. Let's dive in. Welcome, Rebecca. I'm so happy to have you on the podcast today.
Thank you so much, April. I am so delighted, and thank you so much for responding to
Yes.
my request as well.
Absolutely. As soon as it came through, I was like, absolutely yes. We have to talk about decluttering as HSP is so important. And I'm excited to
Mhm.
dive into some of the layers. But before we do that, I always like to start off with hearing what your HSP discovery story is, how or when you realize that you're highly sensitive.
Oh yeah. I mean, when I discovered that I was an HSP, I would say it was only just a couple years ago, like that this terminology just came into my world, Dr. Elaine Aron's work as well. And but I've always known that I was sensitive, but not in a way that was empowering. As a child, I was always told that you're too sensitive, you can't take a joke, you cry too much, all the things that were like, okay, I just have to like shove it under. And I ended up using my strengths and my superpower as a way to disempower myself, like being able to read the rooms, especially as a young child. But then it was more developed as the fear-based people-pleasing tendencies. I'm sure that comes up a lot in your work as well.
Absolutely, it does. Yeah, and a lot of what you're saying resonates. This feeling of I knew I was sensitive, but it definitely wasn't a positive, and
Mm-hmm.
needing to work through that. Yeah.
Yeah. Feeling like I'm never enough, right? So for me, this actually weaves in really nicely with what we're talking about today because I lived in mega cities my entire life. And which meant that, I was basically living in a giant shopping mall. And so I started, my coping mechanism was shopping. I was consuming to try to fill a void of not feeling enough. And I started independently shopping since I was 8 years old.
Oh, you would shop
So
on your own that young.
yeah, because
Mhm.
I lived in cities where we had a lot of freedom, is like very safe as well. But it meant that like you're at a bus stop, but then there's also like tons of shops next to you. So it wasn't just waiting for the bus. It was like, oh, you're always constantly shopping. You were exposed to it, and it's just also the bombardment of advertisement, right? And
Yes.
because I'm a sensitive child, um, I was left to my own devices a lot. So back then, nowadays it would be smartphones, right? Like devices, literal devices, but back then it was magazines. So I was exposed to a lot of magazines, and so I didn't get the best, like I wasn't directed in the best way possible with the best influences. So in my mind, I was bombarded with the media's notion of like, oh, you will be happy if you have X, Y, and Z, or if you follow these trends. So I just kept shopping and shopping and shopping. So, but having said that, I grew up in a very tidy household because both my parents have a lot of Japanese influences behind them. So it wasn't that it was cluttered, but my internal world was very cluttered. And it wasn't until, I read Marie Kondo's book that I realized I was like, oh, I've been tidying wrong my entire life. So this is why, and I'm a reformed shopaholic now. So if this resonates with any audience members with like, stress shopping, being in debt, all that kind of stuff, then I'm really excited to like dive in further on that too. So that's my HSP story. I realized that a couple of years ago that is actually a strength, and I actually have two HSP daughters who are 8 and 10 years old. So this has been a tremendous part of my healing journey because I realize I can reparent myself by giving them the tools that I wish I had growing up so that they're also able to recognize that a sensitivity is a strength. You can take ownership of what joy means to you. You don't have to follow the crowds or the masses. And a huge part of that learning is actually they've been KonMariing. They've been doing this decluttering method since they were 2 years old.
Wow, so you started them off early. I
Yeah,
love
they were
that.
guinea pigs, April. I was like, let's see if this works on them too. But it's been magnificent. And this is also why, like, I've also evolved my business. I think I'm actually at my 5 year anniversary of being certified as a consultant. So what that means is I'm certified under Marie Kondo's method,
Hmm.
right? I read her book over a decade ago. And then actually dived into this work about 5 years ago. And yeah, over the last couple of years, I realized I was like, again, removing that fear. Like this whole process is not about just decluttering or physical, but it's also about letting go in a healthy way of thoughts and beliefs that don't serve us. So a
Yes.
couple of years ago, I decided I was like, I think I'm gonna have that courage to shift and serve who sparks the most joy for me, which is the HSP community.
Yes, I love that you're giving back because just your experience of you grew up in a tidy home, you said, but your outside world was not tidy. There was a lot of stimulation and expectation to, fit into the shopping culture that we all get pulled into, right? But
Success,
realizing
yes, like what
success,
success looks like, you know?
exactly what success looks like. Right, exactly. And so you're hinting to me that there's decluttering possible on so many different levels. And so
Mhm.
I saw on your website you talk about the impacts physically, emotionally, spiritually, even around working or living in clutter. So I wonder if you could speak more to that because that was really intriguing to me because I'm someone who's very impacted by clutter. I need a clean space and I love to tidy and I love to get rid of things. Because it for me it's mental peace of mind or mental clarity when I'm decluttering. So I'm curious about those other layers if you could speak to it.
Like just on a practical note, like, what happens to us physiologically when we look at clutter is it will activate your cortisol levels. So
Wow, I
just
didn't know that.
a lot of people don't know this. And like I actually do a lot of workshops, like corporate workshops as well. And I'm like, like there's a lot of stressors in life, right? Like as we all know, there's like you can't control the traffic, you can't control what emails are going to come through in your inbox.
Right.
But I always say, like, um, this is something that is within our power. Having a space that supports us, that can nourish us, that can charge us up so that we can face whatever that's going to come our way. And then also,
Yes.
I like to compare it to, we're so mindful to charge all of our devices, just so think of your home as your charging port. So that's where your bedroom, I know that you have a lot of sleep resources on your website as well.
Yeah.
Your bedroom is a sanctuary. Your bedroom charges you up.
Mm.
So it's like there's sleep and there's good sleep. So I'm actually pretty obsessed with sleep hygiene as well, you know. So this is like all part of it. Like I always say to people in my workshops, I'm like, if you're not ready to declutter, um, the one tip that I will give you is it takes 10 seconds to do, and you will gain back so much energy. Take your charger out of the bedroom if you have one in there. Take
Yeah.
the device, right? Because
Yeah.
I find that this is actually a pivotal part of the equation. I meet so many people who they have the desire you know, to declutter or, like get on track with their health, fitness, whatever it is. But what's holding them back? They're like, got no time, got no energy. I'm like, this 10-second hack is going to
Yeah.
change your life. You're going to be able to expand your energy field, because this is the issue. It's too tempting right now. It's the
Yes.
last thing that you see. The blue light's going to impact our sleep. That's the first thing
Mhm.
that you see, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah, I'm just thinking about that. We talk so much about physical clutter, but we're welcoming in so much mental clutter with our phones, our devices.
yes, yes,
Yeah.
yeah. You have to be able to put those boundaries in place because, let's face it, it is a Pandora's box, right? It's so tempting. I mean, we've all been there. We've all felt the effects in the pool, right? It's like, those days when like you're trying to surf the entire internet in one sitting.
Yes, take it all in.
Yeah. So, and this is also where, like, it becomes a way to short circuit. So I actually, most of my work is primarily online. Yeah. And I actually do get very overstimulated from screen time. I wonder if it's the same for you as well.
Absolutely. When I'm not working, I've developed a bit of an aversion to being on the screen because
Yes.
there's too much of it or there's enough of it during the workday.
Yeah. And it's like
Yeah.
being able to, it's not about eliminating, like, James Clear says this really beautiful. It's when you're trying to lessen a habit as well, like lessen the control of a habit that there is, it's really about replacing it. So rather than saying, oh, I'm not allowed to do this, it's like, okay, I'm going to replace this with this, right? So it's like, okay, you have no phone in your bedroom. It's like replace it with a book that you want to read or like a magazine. And if it's a lighting issue, then get a lamp that's going to
Right. Or
work.
an alarm clock.
Right, exactly. Like that's a big one that a lot of people say. They're like, oh, but what about my alarm clock? It's like, okay, then like I do recommend those sunrise alarm clocks.
That's
I
what I
love
have. Yeah. It's so gentle.
so gentle. And if you are an HSP, like it's just such a gentle way to wake up too. So like little hacks like that, like we don't realize, but it's the little tiny changes that can make such a profound impact on our life, right?
Mm-mm.
So, but we kind of have to create that foundation first. So we've been talking about like the physical, the physiological impact that
Mm-hmm.
clutter has as well. And it's also a way to create new mental space and clarity.
Yes. Yes,
So
absolutely. Because we're taking something out, and space can actually come in for once.
Yeah, and if people are, interested in like manifestation, all that, then it's actually a way to welcome in new opportunities
Hmm.
and to be able to align yourself. So there is a reason why. So I don't know if you're familiar, but Marie Kondo's book is actually called The Life-Changing Magic of Tidying Up.
Hmm.
And it's sold over 4 million copies, maybe it's even more now, translated into over 40 languages too.
Wow.
The title is bold, right? Like the life-changing magic of tidying up.
That's very
So
bold. Yeah.
well, but why this happens is because, people go through extreme transformations. Even for my family, like, I told you I grew up in mega cities. I was under the conditioning that I was like, okay, this is how I should raise my children, like just kind of going with like, okay, just plodding along. And then after I've done my tidying festival, so that's also another cute terminology. Like instead of saying, oh, it's decluttering, because oftentimes that has a negative connotation to it,
Yeah.
Marie Kondo actually calls it a tidying festival. So
I
when
love
you
that.
hire home, the first foundation that you lay down is called the Tidying Festival. It's actually a direct translation from Japanese, which is katatsuke matsuri.
Hmm.
So it's literally just means tidying festival. So it's something we
Yeah.
want to look forward to, right? And then when we completed our tidying festival, I think it was about a year later, I I finally had that courage to like face this question that my husband had been posing for some time. Like he wasn't happy where we were living, but I was just kind of like blinders on, don't want to think about it. And it finally gave me the courage that like, no, this is not my ideal life.
Hmm.
This is not my ideal family life either. And so we actually co-married, we let go of the city that we're living in, and we took a family gap year for an entire year. We did slow
Oh,
travel, and our kids were, gosh, they were not even 3 and 1 at that time,
wow.
and people
So
said we were crazy.
this is amazing. I mean, your family is kind of just really blossoming at that point, and you're like, no, we need to change. And I love this letting go on a bigger scale. It's like expanding and a couple of things here. And I also love the tidying festival and that it's something to look forward to. It's a celebration, not a chore. And and that we can apply it to every part of our lives. And we were talking privately about you could even declutter your relationships, not just your home or your other parts of your life, but this can touch everything.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and like, that's the bigger stuff in life, right? And I find that like in like even if you like, in all spiritual teachings, and even if you are not spiritual too, everyone's always talking about letting go,
Yeah.
right? Like let
Yes.
go of the limiting beliefs, let go of that relationship or a toxic relationship and whatnot. And I'm like, but that's diving into the deep end. We're not taught how to let go as a society. If anything, we're taught to
Yeah.
hoard and accumulate and
Mhm.
get more. I mean, just look at the state of the world, right? And then it's like,
Right, exactly.
and we're not taught. And so this is actually like I always pose as like, our home is a training ground. Like this decluttering method is a way to learn how to let go in a healthy way. So we start
Yeah.
with gentle. That's why I'm like, this method is so perfect for HSPs
Yeah.
because with like, the things that we have in our own home, it might feel really basic. Does it spark joy? Does this bring me joy? Does this bring me purpose? Right. But the more you practice it, it's like a muscle. By the time you get to those intangible, really challenging, energetically charged items, it is a mindfulness practice as well. So you're able to sit still with what's coming up in your body and then let it go with gratitude. So gratitude is a huge component, and it's also why it's so different from traditional organizing. So you actually have to be grateful for the things that you are letting go. That's the healthy letting go. If you
Yeah.
let it go with shame, regrets, anger, you're actually still storing those emotions inside of your body.
That makes a lot of sense because, these objects do represent different emotions or memories. And like if you don't get closure with the items, just like if you don't get closure with a relationship, the door is open and you're still holding that. That makes a lot of sense. And there's like this building up. We're starting step one instead of trying to jump to step 10.
Ah, yeah. And it can be like, it's almost like we can ritualize it as well because it's also tangible, right? So like let's say like this mug is from a relationship that is no longer in my life. For you, you might be like, oh, that's a cute mug. But for me, when I hear it, like, like there's a lot
Right.
of regret, there's shame around it. And then so instead of like, just chucking it, like, oh, screw that person, like they treated me terribly, it might actually just look like, it takes time. Like take as much time as you want because everyone's going to have that different emotional readiness. You might not be ready to let it go. That's also okay too. So it's really tapping into where you are at in your journey. And it's like, okay, what has this person taught me? It's like, thank you so much. You've now taught me what kind of people that I want to be surrounded by.
Right. I mean, what a beautiful healing process. And just especially for HSPs, because we do place a lot of symbolism and meaning on objects and things that represent our experiences. So to know, like, if I have this mug, and this mug actually is very special to me, that I have here. But if let's say something changed, I could take my time. I
Mm-hmm.
could remind myself what it taught me, and then
Yes.
I let it go, and I'm letting it go like clear.
Yes.
How
Yes.
beautiful. I love
And
this.
it could even be something really practical, right? Like it might be like, oh, I wasn't supposed to put that into the dishwasher.
Right.
So things like that. So when we go through that, it's almost like when we have these mindful pauses to reflect. So, I like to frame it as, we reflect, we reframe, and then we release it. So when we reflect on it, then we can reframe it and then we can release it, right? So even something like that. Let's say that these don't function well, for example, right?
Yeah.
Oh, I'll give you a good example. It's like, let's say that like, these work really well. Like I have very small ears, so I actually use children's earbuds, like buds. And like, so when you hold it, you're like, oh, it sparks a lot of joy, just like your mug, it holds special meaning. So actually as HSPs, like when we are surrounding ourselves with these conscious choices of what you have decided to bring into your home or allow into your home, it will energize you. So the same goes with like, how I said earlier about just seeing clutter will raise your cortisol levels. But at the same time, it's like when you're in a calm space, right? Just like looking at your background behind you, your shelfie is beautiful,
Thank you.
so then it's like, oh, that feels really good on the nervous system. So it will actually calm your nervous system too.
Yeah.
This is also why before and after pictures go viral on
Mm.
social. There's a reason why, these kind of cleaning content, these hiding content go viral because it actually is soothing the nervous system.
That makes sense because whenever I see those, I feel so deeply satisfied and like a sense of relief. And I
Yeah.
don't even know the person or the space, but I
Yeah.
still feel the benefit.
feeling it, right? And I mean, also because we're HSP, so we feel it on the neck on another level. But yeah, it's just about like, it's because I also want to just share with the audience as well. This isn't about minimalism. Like a lot
Mm.
of times, this is like quite a big myth because Marie Kondo, her aesthetic is very minimalist. So people have this idea that like, oh, I have to get rid of everything. But no, actually, the method is all about what do you want to keep in your life?
Mm.
So this is all, there's a lot of positive psychology infused in it too. So yeah, for folks who are not familiar, I can give like a brief overview
That would
of
be great. Yeah.
yeah. So the KonMari method, we actually have 5 rules, right? Wait, 6 rules. So the first one is to commit yourself to tidying up because without commitment, we're not going to get very far, as we all know, with anything in life, right? Like you can just have wishful thinking, but so we've got to commit ourselves. Number 2 is imagining your ideal lifestyle. So this one I found really, really tricky when I first read the book. I was like, what is this? Like, and I realize now, like now I can share after having over a decade of experience too. It's like I wasn't giving myself that permission to dream.
Mm. You were,
Was held
yeah.
back. Yes. And so whenever we go through the ideal lifestyle, and this can look different for people, right? Like whether if you're into journaling, there's journaling prompts. Like I actually have journaling prompts as well of like, what kind of people do you want to be surrounded by? How do you want your space to feel? Where are you? How do you want to feel about yourself? Like just those kinds of questions. If people are more visual, you can totally make a vision board. That's very popular too. Or even a Pinterest board if you want to do it in digital way. So it's just a way like, and the big tip that I have for everyone is if you are doing this, just allow yourself to feel relaxed and don't be held back by barriers such as money, time, commitments. Just park those by the door and just allow yourself to dream big. And it's going to look different for everyone. Some people might be like, hey, my ideal life is to have a beachfront property. Great. There's some people are going to be like, I'm really happy in my home. I just want to start my day off with a calm cup of coffee.
Mhm.
And that's also wonderful too. So the method is really like this. There's no judgment as well because it's about what you define as joy, right?
Yeah.
So then and then rule um the other rules are more technical. So we go by category, not
Mm.
room by room.
Right.
So this is quite different from like normally people be like, I'm going to do my garage, I'm going to do my kitchen. So the categories in the KonMari method is the first one is clothing,
Mm.
second is books, third is paper,
Mm.
fourth is called komono, which is miscellaneous in Japanese.
Mm-hmm.
So that means everything else under the sun, like the garage items, seasonal items, hobby items, toiletries, medication. So everything that's not clothing, books, or paper fall under
Okay.
category number 4. And then the last one is sentimental items.
Mm.
So we go through the sequence because we're actually building the muscle. So clothing is typically the easiest.
Okay.
And I also have another theory. It's like because the your skin is your largest organ. So you get to take ownership of what you want to put on your body.
Ooh, that's powerful.
It is for HSPs especially, right? So
Yes, very.
yeah, and then so when you go through that, because it's like, I also I used to question myself a lot. I used to, not trust my gut and my intuition too. Always kind of handing the power over to others. Like, even like things like, oh, where do you want to eat? It's like, oh, wherever you want to eat,
Right.
like those kinds of things. So it seems
Mm-hmm.
really basic, but it's like when you start to practice, okay, what is my full body? Yes. What do I want to wear? Who am I now and who am I becoming? Then it's represented by, just it seems very basic, but it's quite symbolic.
Oh, it
Yeah.
it feels so deep. Like, and I can understand why HSPs might struggle with not only the dream, the step number two,
Mm,
but also then how do I want to feel? What do I want to represent? What do I want to put on my body? We're often giving those choices over to someone else or being
yes.
influenced. So what powerful kind of reclaiming of our
Yes.
voices through this process.
There's a lot of body shaming. I mean, and then it comes through so many sources, right? Where surrounded
Yeah.
by it too. So it really goes back to like, I mean, sometimes some of the work, because it depends for me, like it differs from person to person, but especially when it comes around body, like what weight yo-yoing, fluctuating as well. So we do a lot of the reframing work around that too,
Yeah.
which will be about, you're not defined by the label, right? Like I want to just be, I want to be the fittest, healthiest version of myself versus I need to fit into and then this size, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. So it takes, you're able to step back into your power. So we also have another rule, which is you cannot buy any decluttering organizing tools until after. Declutter first and then buy organizing solutions.
What would
So
that, could you give some examples of what that might be?
yeah. So like I always like to encourage people to just shop from your own home. Like, anything can be repurposed as an organizing tool. Like even like get a tissue box, cardboard tissue box, cut off the top, and then that becomes a separator as
Yep.
well. So like and I'm a big advocate of like, we have more than enough. It actually always proves that like we have more than that. A shoe box is great as well.
Yes.
If you want to upgrade later, then do so. But what this actually helps to facilitate is mindful, intentional shopping. So when
Yeah.
you know exactly what you need to buy. So like, for example, I worked with a client on her kitchen before. If we had gone the route of measuring everything has to have like those matchy boxes. And don't get me wrong, I love a good matchy box. But like, like if we had gone down that route, we would have bought dozens, like
Oh, yeah.
30, right? Just to fit it. And then but we followed the rule. So at the end, all we needed to buy were two boxes.
Isn't that amazing? Because
Yeah.
I've seen some of these kind of organizing shows or on social media, and there's
Mhm.
so many things that are bought, and sometimes you need that. But
Yeah.
I love what you're saying, which is you can use what's already in your home, which one brings more intention, but also creates more accessibility for folks who can't go out and buy all the things. And also things change as you pare down.
Yeah. So in my own home, like even though I do this as a profession, I have a blend. I have a mix of repurposed and some bought containers, and that's okay. Like I think this is also where I want people to also let go of Pinterest perfect.
Ooh.
Yeah. And that because it doesn't bring the joy, right? Like I think the intention behind it is really about a space that serves you versus I'm doing it for validation.
Right, for the image.
For the image. Like, I mean, of course, like, don't get me wrong. Like, it's like if aesthetics is your thing and it brings you a lot of joy, go for it. But it's always
Yeah.
going back to like, and I use this example a lot too. Like, for example, even with like luxury goods, right? Are you buying it because you really appreciate the craftsmanship and the quality, something
Yeah.
that you want to be able to pass down, etc.? Or are you doing it because you feel like you need to look a certain way?
Right, exactly. Where is that urge coming from? Is it internal or external?
Yeah. So when we're able to kind of differentiate between that as well, because I used to have a lot of purses and handbags, and then I realized I was like, actually, no, I don't want to have that maintenance, especially with like leather bags, it can get like, moldy. I was living in the tropics before. I'm currently based in Scotland, but I was living in the tropics before this. So, even just the maintenance as well, like,
Hmm.
you have to like, there's things called such as bag spas as well.
Oh, bag spas.
Yeah.
What
hmm
is that?
It's like dry cleaning for purses.
Got it. I'm not a purse person, so I have no idea.
But I've changed. Like I'm a canvas tote bag girl now. And
That's
I have,
me. Yeah.
like I'm like just so happy with that. And there's you get to just own it.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, just be who you are or use what works for you in your everyday life.
Yeah. Yeah. And
Yeah.
that's part of it. So like, yeah. And then so the rules, okay, we've covered some of them. And then we have to do it in the right sequence as well. So the categories why we do it is because you more often than not, and this is one of the mistakes that I often see. People are like, I'm going to do my garage, I'm going to do my kitchen, but that is a kimono category number 4. That's the high intensity zone already. So if you have never done a HIIT workout and you just go in, like imagine what's going to happen, right?
Not good.
Yeah, you're not going to be happy. And then so it's so overstimulating, it's so overwhelming because it's one of those. your kitchen, especially, it is my friend and I, we call it the sexy category, like, so cooking and kitchen are the sexy categories because it's the one where you actually feel this, it's such a high traffic zone that you
Yes.
really feel that transformation. And it is a good one, right? But then it is intense. It is intense because you have those
Yes.
drawers, you open one area, but then you're like, okay, there's like lots of minuscule little things that don't actually belong in the kitchen. So it overstimulates us and it will actually lead to overwhelm.
Makes sense because if I think about clothing, I'm focusing on one type of item versus a kitchen, a garage. Yes, they're high impact when they're done, but you're touching a million categories in those spaces. And I just think about an HSP who gets easily overstimulated, one, but also develops decision fatigue. You're switching so many different things in your brain trying to figure out, okay, where does this go? Where does that go? This, this shouldn't be in the kitchen. This should be, it's just so
Yeah,
much. So there's so much
definitely.
intentionality here in these categories in the order, which to me is beautiful because then I don't have to figure out how to approach this.
Yes, and I'll also show you as well. So it's like, we also make it really gentle too. So like how I was saying about like the categories too, right? There's clothing, there's books, there's paper, kimono, and then there's one more sentimental. But if you just go in, like, even if you're like feeling very overwhelmed, you're like, I want to start, but I feel kind of overwhelmed because I have a lot of clothes and everyone's going to look different. I've worked with people who can do their entire wardrobe in 45 minutes. I've also worked with people who need it over 20 hours to do
Wow,
their
that's a
work.
big difference.
The big difference, and this is with somebody by their side, right? And there's going to be people, because I teach a lot online now too, there's people who have like a lifetime of belongings that they're
Yes.
dealing with, right? So because they've never ever decluttered before. So like if you look at this here, it's divided into subcategories.
Could you
So
say a few of, maybe just give a few examples?
so like for example, your tops, your bottoms, your dresses, your athletic wear, your shoes, jackets, winter wear, etc. So this also still follows the philosophy where we're going by the subcategory. I mean, we're going by the category. And the wisdom behind it is because when you can see it in its totality, it's easier to make sound decisions, like conscious decisions. So let's say, for example, April, like you're okay, I'm gonna start. Let's take out all your shoes, right?
Yeah.
But out from you were not doing a room by room. So you got to take the shoes from every area, everywhere,
Yes. Get them all
everywhere
together.
all together. And then you see it. So this also creates a visual impact. So if anyone has watched the Netflix show before, then you'll see that there's the infamous mountain of clothing.
Yes, exactly. I have watched it, and every time there's like a huge bed full of clothes. But
Yeah.
that's true, it does leave an impact. Because if you have clothes in your bedroom, in the guest room, in the hall closet, you don't get to take it all in.
No, and like so there is that it's like so Marie Kondo basically calls it, it's like a shock to your system as well.
Yeah.
So more often than not, when you see it, I mean, how many of us are guilty of like standing in front of a closet and saying, I have nothing to wear, right? So
Yeah.
when you have that visual impact, you're like, I have more than enough.
Right, because you're seeing it all together, not just one sliver. And
And then
so
also,
the shock is intentional.
yes, and then it's also it's either I have more than enough or I have
Sorry, you
it's
cut out. I have more than enough, or
more than enough or I have too much.
yes,
So
yes.
it's that, we have to have these, it's almost like these epiphanies, these, it activates us as well. So this will actually help to shape our future purchasing behaviors and decisions too. So this is also how I'm a reformed shopaholic, right?
Yeah, when did that switch happen for you, if you're open to sharing?
Yeah, of course. I think it was once because when and this is why the method is so different because I've decluttered my whole life, like my mom is like pretty OCD as well. So I didn't really have that problem of letting go. But um it was more when you are able to link it back to the joy and gratitude, which is the key components of the KonMari method. When you're grateful, when you're content, and that leads to happiness. So I realized, like, just even by holding things, like, and I used to not be able to enter a shop without leaving, purchase something. I used to buy a lot from fast fashion too. So even when I was holding those fast fashion items, like that's where really where the reflection comes in. I was like, oh, you know what, like this t-shirt, I only wore it once or twice and then the shape is worn out, so instead of just topping it like how I normally would have, it was just kind of like, you know what, like I don't want to support sweatshop labor. I want
Mm-hmm.
to be able to support, like I want to purchase quality over quantity.
Yes, exactly. It really wakes you up.
Yeah. And then it puts because it's coming from a place of empowerment. No one's forcing you. So I like to give a lot of these like crash diet analogies as well, because it's like when you feel like forced, when you're doing it from a place of fear and not good enough, etc.,
Mhm.
the rebound is bound to happen. But when you're
Yeah.
doing it from this place of embodiment, and it's coming from a place of love and gratitude as well, that's where the evolution can happen. We're not doing it from this shame-based place. Um, yeah. So this is
Yeah.
really like it's happened. And I'm like, okay, of course, like sometimes you might still have those buyer's remorse or whatever happens, but it's more like you're able to kind of be like, oh, okay, like this happened, but instead of dwelling on it, ruminating on it, it's like, okay, what can I do better? What am
Mm-hmm.
what am I taking away from it? So this goes back into the whole letting go with gratitude component.
Yeah.
Um, and I think it's really powerful as HSPs too, because we tend to ruminate. I still ruminate. I'm human, like, but it's
Yeah.
more we're able to bounce out of it at a more empowering from a more empowering place.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it feels so empowering to feel like you have a sense of control and connection to your choices. You're not maybe mindlessly buying things or making decisions without thinking, well, what's the impact? What's my value here?
Yeah, and I also just want to share as well, because we've talked about how the seeing the clutter increases the cortisol levels too. So like one of the patterns that I've seen a lot, so it's like, that this is why I bring up about the digital devices, right? Because that actually becomes an energy drainer in our lives. But another pattern that I've seen, and especially having the privilege of going into people's homes, is that, the home is clutter. Let's say that you have a very stressful job. Your home is clutter. You come home after a long day, and then it's like another hit on your nervous system, and actually it will activate coping mechanisms. There's research done on this where it will activate coping mechanisms such as binge eating, binge watching, and mindless scrolling. So then what happens is it becomes like this really vicious cycle, because you might be, if you're mindlessly shopping, that means more stuff coming into your house. You might be
Right.
going more into debt. There's a lot more shame going in. Your sleep is impacted. Your diet is impacted, right?
Right. Everything is connected. You're just kind of feeding this cycle of shame.
Yes, that's why I was like, right off the bat, I'm like, get the charger, create a charging station.
Yes, like a landing spot for your phone.
Like get used to it. It took me a while to get used to. I started this, like my therapist taught us this like about, gosh, like I want to say like yeah, over a decade ago now. And it was slow going at first. Like, I still felt myself like my husband has a joke. Like in the beginning, like literally he was like, I know where to find you. You'll be at the charging station. So we started off kind of gently as well. Like I was like, okay, put the charging station was in the kitchen. And then it was like, okay, let's set a curfew for the devices. It's like it's step by step, because it's like it's not easy because it's so pervasive in our lives.
Yeah, we need to kind of gently step ourselves down. Just like with
Uh,
the decluttering, you're kind of gently going through the process. You're not doing it all at once, all in one day, just
yes.
one step at a time.
And like it's really about like, okay, where's your, we have our comfort zone, and then we have our stretch zone as well. So where
Yes.
is your stretch zone? Because this is also where it's going to look different. And then after the stretch zone is your panic zone, right? So everyone's going to look different. Like some people are going to be like, oh, okay, great, like listen to this podcast and be like, okay, I can do my entire house. But some people might be like, okay, I need to, let this marinate for a little bit longer.
Yeah, exactly. And I love that there's permission for that. You don't have to rush through. And I know
Mhm.
you offer resources for folks, which we'll touch on in a bit. But it's just good to know you can do it all on your own. You can reach out for help. You can take your time with it, right? The goal, it doesn't sound like it's not perfectionism.
No, no, not at all. Like it's like that's something that we can let go of.
Yeah, we can let go of that too.
let go of that too, especially for, I think, this is something that's pretty powerful, especially for anyone who is living with, like, being a perfectionist. And I think that is a recurring theme as well, especially for HSPs, especially for women too, because there's so much weight that's put on us. Like, we have so much invisible weight that we're carrying, not even just from what we've been exposed to, but also from what our ancestors have gone through as well.
It's intergenerational. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So it's like, when we're able to see, like, even this scarcity mindset, it comes out a lot when we're doing the decluttering, because, you might have been taught, or you might have been, it's been modeled from a young age that, maybe it's like parents who have gone through the depression, or they've lived through wars. Of course, they've gone through really traumatic times. So they're like, literally like, you can't throw anything away.
Exactly.
So it's
Yeah.
a really, really healing process. You're like, okay, thank you so much. Like, and it goes back to the gratitude. It's like, thank you for everything that you have done, but I now know, right? Like, now I don't have to live that way. Right?
You're not
We
only
know.
healing yourself, but you're healing that lineage.
Yes.
How be
Yes.
ah, that's
Is,
really
yeah.
beautiful.
So especially if any listeners have like children as well, it's really, really empowering. I mean, I know that we do live in a time now where it's kind of we're off on the other, like, it's the other end of the spectrum, where it's like one click purchase, same day delivery. Kids are like, where's my package?
Exactly. Like they want it instantly.
Yeah, the instant gratification, right? So it's like we need to find that nice balance as well. So I love also guiding. I mean, this method is for everyone. I've taught everyone from age 2 to 80.
I
And
love that.
and because we all need to be taught how to let go, right? And get used to it, because it's actually, it's a basic life skill that we're never taught.
It's true. I wonder if you could share just briefly how your kids have responded to this whole process.
It's interesting. So, so like for my eldest, like she's really taken to it. She's 10 going on 11 now. And it's so cute because I teach it as a self-soothing, self-regulation tool. So, when we're feeling a little bit overstimulated, it's like just folding the things and then, putting it back, or reorganizing things that will actually calm our nervous system. So I've caught her a few times when she was feeling like, worked up. She was going and reorganizing her drawers as well. It's the cutest. And even for my youngest, she's more attached to things, but I've seen, because it's through the practice, right? She's less and less attached, right? And then it's also helps because they are able to, we're all going to have big emotions, but then we're able to bounce back a lot quicker.
I mean, what a beautiful way to learn to regulate because it's tactile. You're putting your focus on something that you can solve. So there's a sense of control there. Yeah, and it's so regulating just having that process. And that's exactly what I do when I'm feeling stressed. I'm like, I want to organize something. I want to clean
Mhm.
something up. It works. It's so helpful.
So this is also a really great tip for HSPs, and I tell this to everyone because I work, and we both work primarily, online, right?
Yeah.
And it's our lives, but we can actually empower ourselves. So when the house is like set up with systems too, it just becomes it's so easy to reset. Like, my house is not perfect all the time. I have two young kids, but what we do is we can reset it. I can go around, it's like I can pick things up from around the house, like I'm just picking up things, right? But what happens is that because I know exactly where things go, you can actually activate your flow state of mind. It's like, okay, this goes into the kitchen sink. This goes into my backpack. This goes into my little work caddy.
Right,
So
there's a
you're,
sense of movement there and ease.
yes. And then we're also breaking free from the screen time as well. Or it can even just be like, oh, I'm just gonna wash the dishes right now. I'm a Cancerian, so I'm a water sign. So I really love, like, water really soothes me and like calms me as well. So it's just like, oh, okay, like just, doing the dishes, drying it, putting it away, that kind of thing, right? So we can use our house as a self-soothing and self-regulation tool.
I love that so much. We're just taking that in.
Yeah,
Like
and
we
it's
can use
so
our house
underrated.
to regulate.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, I'm like, I really want more people to know about this, because it's like, like, don't get me wrong. It's great to like treat yourself, like, all that kind of stuff too, take a bubble bath, etc. But I'm like, yeah, there's so much beauty in being able to take care of your home and to show that gratitude for it too. And when there are systems in place, that means that every single person living under the same roof can pitch in. It becomes their responsibility too. So my kids, like, it doesn't happen overnight, obviously, because there's training, there's obviously like age appropriate chores, all that kind of stuff. But my kids now, they can make their own breakfast, their lunch, they have their bags packed. I don't have to go down to the kitchen until 8 a.m. So I get to do my meditation as well. I get to, I'm an HSP. I'm not a morning person. So I was like, I need to have like slow mornings. Like, don't, and there is going to be bickering in the background. I get really activated by them, but I know, like, 8 out of 10 times, like, they have a handle on their things. This
Yeah.
is fosters independence too. It fosters confidence too. It cultivates confidence. And it means that you invest this time to do this, you will absolutely gain it back.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're feeding yourself so much. Like you're regulating, you're empowering yourself, you're cleaning up your space. I mean, there's so many good things happening, just ricocheting off each other.
And like the family members, like if the family members ask me, they're like, oh, where's this? I can tell them, it's like, oh, it's here, this drawer, left hand side, go get it yourself. So as an HSP, our energy is our currency. So you're not using up precious currency and reserves on trying to find something. And when you're trying to find something that you cannot locate, stress hormones go through the roof.
So stressful. And you're right, as much as we can kind of delegate and empower others to do for themselves, whether it be children or spouses or roommates or family, um, that energy that we get back is so precious.
It
So
is, yeah.
important. Yeah.
And you can focus on the things that matter, right?
Exactly.
So the
Exactly.
system setup, it means that it's like, okay, like, you can focus on, creating more, like what do you want to focus on? Like for us, it's like, okay, we want to be able to spend time with the kids, be able to, train them, right? Like it's like the things that I was saying. It's like if the space wasn't supporting us, I wouldn't be able to teach them how to make some basic items, right? Like pancakes, like eggs, all that kind of stuff, and like
Yeah.
so
Life skills.
exactly. Yeah. So it's also a way to just focus on like, okay, you'll be able to expand your energy field. And for anyone, I also want to, this is one of the top questions that I get all the time. So I kind of want to address it as well, because people are always asking about like, how do I make my XYZ but like declutter or like pick up after themselves? So with that, I just want to address like the KonMari way is that we don't force anyone. We hold space for them, right?
Mm.
So if they are not ready, that's okay, because because when you start to feel that lightness, that energy change in yourself too, people just naturally gravitate towards it. Even animals, obviously, they're highly sensitive too, right? Like, it's so funny. There's been like so many sessions that I've conducted where people be like, oh, my cat doesn't like people, they're probably going to stay in the other room. And they actually come into the room as we're decluttering because they feel the energy shifting too. But so it does come, like I hear it so often. People will be like, oh my gosh, my husband asked me, can I fold his underwear drawer the same way that I did mine? And it just becomes like a cute thing because it comes from a place of like they want to do it. It's
Yeah.
not forced. I mean, of course, there are going to be people who are resistant, who are skeptics as well, and again, that goes back into how we reframe it. Like my father-in-law, like he kind of mocks me about this as well. And then but then instead of like, of course it hurt as a HSP, I was like, oh, like I felt offended by it. But then
Sure.
I'm like, no, I'm not going to be offended by it. Like I honor that feeling, but I'm like, let's reframe it. It's like, instead of saying stuff like, oh, he'll never be able to KonMari, I can say something like, oh, when he's ready, I'm here for him.
Right, exactly. We're letting folks see it kind of vicariously, how the energy shifts, how we've maybe changed, how the spaces function more, and they're like, "Oh, I want some of that." But let them
Yeah.
get there on their own time, just like we're letting ourselves get there at our own
And
pace. Yeah.
especially with like, when we're helping up. Oh, the biggest tip I would say is also, okay, so do not throw other people's stuff away. When you're going through your journey, only focus on your own things.
That's important. That makes
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah, and ask for permission too. So even with my kids too, and And especially if you have young kids too, just kind of see where their emotional readiness is, because they might only have attention span for 10 minutes, and that's okay. So what I would recommend for that is just to say, like, ask them, like, if you can kind of see their attention is going, like, of course, it's like, I've been there, I'll feel like activated. I'm like, oh, you're not focused, whatever. But actually reframe it as, okay, I see that you want to play with that toy. Like, can I make the executive decision? Can I make the decisions for you? Because the whole process is about respecting and honoring their decisions.
Yes, I
And
love that. Yes.
uh, and that this is actually where a lot of the little T trauma comes in for people, why they resist decluttering, because they might have come home from school when they were younger and all of their things had been, some of their prized possessions might have been given away.
Absolutely. And which are so important for kids. And a lot of times
Mhm.
parents do that because it's easier in the moment, but it does
Mhm.
leave an impact. And then people need to hold on so much tighter to their
Yes, the
things.
fear, right? It's like I'm gonna, if you don't clean up your room, then I'm gonna get a bin bag and throw everything out. That's so common. And I'm like, oh, like no, because when we do it from a fear-based place, of course, we know that like brute force can make anyone do anything. Oh, looking through history, it's like that's not going to lead to sustainable change and
Right.
transformation.
Right.
So yeah, like with kids too, it's just like, hold space. And then it's actually, we can also reframe it as like, it's a really beautiful opportunity to connect, and you get to understand those family members more, like what lights them up. So if you have kids, for example, then it makes it so much easier to be like, oh, okay, you know what? Like, I don't have to buy them all these toys anymore. Like, they're literally only playing with Lego, for example. So this helps you to create these data points of like, oh, you become a more discerning consumer.
Right. Not just for yourself, but for who you're buying for.
Yeah. Or like you're like, oh, like like when we go to the shops, like definitely they'll be like, I want this. But instead of saying like, no, you can't have it, it's like, okay, let's have conversations around it. Remember that one that we got last time, It's like, oh, like you didn't play with it for that long. Is it going to be similar? Or like, oh, you want another stuffed animal, but oh, you have like 15 already.
Right. You're really kind of slowing things down for them and helping them see the big picture. And it seems like
Yeah.
there's a lot of it about consent, which I really appreciate. Um, right, giving people the space to come at it on their own, and intention, which is so important for all of us, but to learn it from a young age is so important.
So important, especially for HSP kids too. So, like, what this will actually lead to, the more we're able to, even if they want to just keep that really tattered t-shirt because it reminds them of like, a really special memory, allow it. Because even if you are like, oh, I really want to throw that away, or like that broken toy or whatever it is, right? Just remember that you can, every round of joy checking. So, joy checking is the maintenance. So, tidying festival is the foundation laying, but the joy checking can happen periodically because we literally grow out of clothes and past versions of ourselves. So when we go through it, just remember, like, the joy checking can happen as frequently as you want it to. It can even happen just when you're getting dressed in the morning. You're like, oh, have a quick glance at my t-shirts.
Right, you're already in there. Makes
Yeah, you're
sense.
already there. And it will take no time because the foundation is laid already. So when they say like, oh, oh, I want to keep this and this stuff, like, and even if you don't want it, um, when you're honoring and respecting and hearing them and they're being seen as well, what this will lead to eventually is that they will be able to tell you the bigger things in life because they know that mom or dad is not going to judge them. They feel safe to share with you.
That's so important. Yeah, that's so true and important because you're right that you're opening up this dialogue instead of being the authoritarian.
Yes,
And then they
yes.
will feel safer to come through and share what they're feeling or needing because you've had some practice with it already.
Yeah. And like, eventually as they get older too, they realize that through the letting go practice, they realize that they will have built this, um, it will have been built within their operating system that they're like, okay, you know what? Like I can let go of this toxic friendship, or I
Yeah.
can let go of this job that isn't serving me.
Yes, right. It's going to ripple out through their whole lives. So I love that we're going backwards in time, doing healing, but then also
Words.
teaching this next generation to treat themselves differently and have different types of relationships. Um, who knew the power of
Tidying
decluttering?
up.
Yeah, of tidying up, exactly. Rebecca, as we start to wrap up, I'm wondering if there's one message you want to leave listeners with.
Oh, absolutely. I think, I want people to leave with that decluttering isn't about getting rid of things. It's about choosing what truly supports your well-being.
I love that. That's so beautiful. And that you deserve it.
Yeah.
It's so empowering. And
Yeah.
I'll definitely be sure to share the resources you mentioned, your website, social media. You also have resources on Insight Timer, so I'll share all those in the show notes. But before we go, I'm wondering if you could tell listeners about your Circle of Joy community.
Absolutely. So, it's a private network. So it's for people for sensitive souls who want to declutter, and it's like a joyful space as well. Because, especially what we see nowadays, it can be, the internet can be really swampy, but I wanted to create a cozy corner on the internet. Like we need community, right? Like
We
we
really
need
do.
these connections, just like how we're having these amazing conversations too, instead of just like, oh, just swiping through, like,
Yes.
scrolling
Let-
through.
Let's land and connect.
Yeah, like let's actually go beyond. And as HSPs, we get so tired of the surface level connections as well. So this is also where like I've made the conscious choices. Like I don't really teach on mainstream social media. I'm still navigating my relationship with it. I'm not sure where I land on it yet. But I was like, in the meantime, like I have some cozy corners
I
where like
love
I feel,
that.
yeah. And so I want people to also know that, like, these are choices that we can make. It's like, how is it impacting your nervous system? So just like how your podcast creates so much nourishment to the HSP community as well, I want people to recognize that, like, you can recreate those vibes right in your own home. And then that will lead to curating that coziness that you desire in your life.
Oh, I love it so much. We need more of that cozy, curated spaces where we feel safe and we can start to flourish and be our full selves. Yeah, and thank you for the work that you're doing. This has been really enlightening for me. It's taken my love of tidying up to a new level.
Oh my gosh, April, thank you so much for geeking out with me, because I could go on about this for ages. And thank you to the listeners as well for
Yeah.
your time, for listening to this conversation.
Yeah, thank you. I'll definitely have to have you back on.
Thank you so much, April.